just know a week from now, you'll be looking back and be like, I went through that. You just have to know that maybe you don't feel so strong, at a certain point, but us hockey wives or girlfriends, we have so much strength that we don't know we have to be able to pick up our lives and just go.
You're listening to Breaking the Ice podcast, a podcast I created for wives and girlfriends of pro hockey players. My name's Devin Dodaro. I'm the wife of Charlie Dodaro. We have 2 dogs, a little boy Crosby, and a baby girl on the way. We spent 8 months of the year living the hockey life in Europe, but we've also spent about 5 seasons in North America. I've been around the block, sometimes just for a cup of coffee, but I wanted to share the tools, resources, and what's helped me along the way, while also learning every week from each and every one of you. In this podcast, we share tips, tricks, do's, and don'ts for all things women, all things hockey, friendships, trades, long distance, moves, and life in general, so you don't feel so alone. So put your headphones in, go for a walk, and feel like you're sitting down with your best girlfriends. Oh, and make sure to follow the page on Instagram, Breaking the Ice Pod. Let's lace them up and tune in for a new episode every Wednesday. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the podcast. I am sitting here having a glass of wine, editing the podcast, recording my intro, just chilling on a game night in my apartment. Today is game 1 of round 1 of playoffs here in France. So it's that time of year where we'll either go home in the next 2 weeks or we'll go home in the next 5 weeks. So we shall see what happens. But the team that we are on has done really well this season. We've been in second place all season. So I think we will have a pretty good playoff run. So I'm excited to see what will happen. And I am saving all of my energy for round 2 and 3, where I will attempt to bring my kids to a game, hopefully several games. I am kind of embarrassed to admit this, but I've only been to 1 game this hockey season. We came in late. I was super pregnant, didn't really have childcare, didn't feel like chasing my toddler super pregnant, and then I had a baby, then I was postpartum, so I feel really guilty and bad I haven't been to a lot of games. But as you know, I'm sure moms can relate to this, it's a little bit of a grind to keep your kid up, 3 hours past their bedtime. But playoffs are obviously important, and I know my husband wants us there and I want to be there, so we will definitely make that a priority as we get further along in playoffs, which I assume we will do. Intro is going to be short and sweet today. I am super excited to have my friend Tara on the podcast. Tara, actually, I was able to meet her in Nashville. She came to the retreat last year. She is so much fun. She is just such a good time. She's a girl's girl. And we started off our conversation going back in time before she met her husband. She was actually a contestant on The Bachelor, which is hilarious knowing her now to think about her little Bachelor debut. I had to go back and refresh my memory and rewatch the YouTube clips of her on the show. And you will have to listen to hear all about her experience. I asked her behind the scene questions that you'll want to hear the answers to. And then we fast forward to how and where she met her husband, a little bit about their journey, and we chat about where they spent their last season, which is actually in Russia, which was last season. And we talk about some of the stuff that's been going on in Russia, including the war, the whole Brittney Griner situation. We chat about what it was like playing in the KHL and some other funny stories within that, where they're at now. And we just have some fun girl talk. So enjoy this episode.
It's like, oh God, I saw this post. It's like, I'm one of those people that will lay awake at 2 in the morning and be like, why did I say that yesterday to that person? Like I look back at my conversations, I'm like, oh my God, like,
Oh, I do
why?
that too. Or like I'll see someone from high school that I had like a drunken night with, like not in like that kind of way, but just like went to a party, like probably one of my drunkest nights of my life. And then I see them out at like Target and I'm like thinking about that night. I'm like, okay, Devin, you're like in your like you're 30, like you don't need to be thinking about like something that happened when you were like 16 years old. Like that person's still not thinking of that night, but you like literally just like can't stop. You can't get it out of your head. You're like, they're judging you still.
It's burned in your memory forever and you'll
Yeah,
never let it go. And
exactly.
they probably don't care or don't remember.
You think you were just like the only drunk person. It's like every other person was doing the same exact thing and they probably feel the same way when they run into people, but like we were all just hammered, let's just face it.
Yeah, just like my season premiere of, season 19 of The Bachelor, where I was blackout wasted. And I look back, I'm like, why did I do that? But everyone else was very wasted as well. I just happened to be over the top.
Just one notch further.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, wait. I'm so excited to talk about this because I only heard you talk about it like briefly at the retreat. So like I'm excited to like dig because a couple people were like, need to hear about the Bachelor tea. So I don't know if there's anything you're not allowed to say, but I feel like even a couple Bachelor podcasts that I used to listen to, it's like they say stuff and like they were like the leads and they like spill everything. So I don't know if there's anything you don't want me to ask, but tell me.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I was on 8 years ago, and you sign your life away, and there's certain things they say, like you can't talk about this or that. That was 8 years ago. I have no idea. And
Yeah.
I've listened to certain podcasts too, and people say things, and I'm just like, screw it, whatever. Like, I'm just gonna pop my mouth away.
Have you done a podcast before?
No, I actually have not. So this is my first one.
I'm
I wish I
breaking
was.
the podcast V card.
Yes, I was invited to do a couple podcasts before, once I was off The Bachelor. I don't know. I just didn't feel like doing it at all.
Yeah.
And coming on with you, it's like it feels so natural since we are friends and we have history. It's like, all right, let's do it. Like,
Yeah, let's do it. I don't even know how you met Steven. We're just gonna start it off with a bang because we're gonna go like before Steven, right? We're gonna go we're gonna go back to The Bachelor and then we're gonna work our way up to where we're at now.
let's do it. Nice little timeline.
Yes, nice little timeline. So I now remember seeing you on The Bachelor. When we
Yeah.
first started talking, I don't think I like connected the dots about that until like later. But then now I full blown remember and I want to hear about like the whole process. So like I think you said your friend signed you up for it, right?
I'm gonna have to like dust off the cobwebs and
BT.
reach back into these memories. Yeah, one of my friends really pushed me into doing this whole process. You gotta bear with me since my brain is in a fog. Yeah, the whole you put in your resume, I guess, and she was like, "You have to do it. You have to do it." And then I get a call from one of the producers, like, "Hi, this is Kate. I just want to make sure you're gonna go to this casting call at this location." I was like, "Oh my God." I'm talking to my friend. I'm like, I just don't want to go. And she's like, "Please, like, I'll buy you drinks. Like, after I'm gonna take you. I'm physically gonna take you to this casting call." So the day comes and I'm just like not really in it. I think I had like jeans and a white t-shirt and flip-flops. And I show up to this casting call, and these girls, thousands, are dressed to the nines. I mean, South Beach attire, stilettos, hair and makeup all done. And I'm like, I do not belong here. I mean, I stick out like such a sore thumb here. And I walk in, and I mean, the line is just snaked around and all these girls. And one of the producers just comes right up to me and they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "My name's Tara. Some girl, Kate, told me, she wanted me here." And they're like, "All right, let's go." They just took me right into an interview, and they're like, "Why are you not in a relationship, and why do you want to be on the show?" And I'm just like, honest to God, I'm just very independent. I think guys find me intimidating because my main love is fishing, golfing. I'm very outdoorsy, and I don't know. that's what I said. And they're like, okay, well, fill this paperwork out. And then we started, doing more of the process. And yeah, my twin was actually supposed to come on with me. I have an identical twin. Her name is Chelsea. And she was sort of seeing someone at that time. And she ended up backing out at the last minute. So we put together like uh, a video, an introduction video to the producers. And so my sister was involved with that. And they were like, yes, we want twins on the show. Like, we have to get, the twins. And if we broke it to them, like, you're only getting one of us. And they're like, okay, whatever.
Did you know that it was Chris that was the Bachelor?
We did not know who it was at the time. I think it was more towards the end of the interviewing process where they finally said, like, all right, it's going to be Chris. And me, I grew up in a small town, our main things were hunting and fishing. And I was like, cool. Like, I feel like with this guy and I could vibe. Like, this could be
100%. That's probably
yeah.
why they saw you in the crowd. They're like, this girl in the jeans and the white t-shirt, she's coming with us because she looks like she's from a small town. Perfect.
So yeah, once we found out that it was Chris, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's get this going. And before we actually go to LA, you go to LA before filming to do like this crazy process where, I mean, they do blood work, background checks. You have to do a personality thing, and you fill out like 1,200 questions. It is the wildest thing. And you can't leave your hotel room. It's like, it was crazy.
And they do that personality test to pair you with like what producer can basically manipulate you the best.
Maybe, or just to see how crazy you are.
Yeah, that's
crazier the better.
Yeah, how far can we take this girl on the show?
I guess I was crazy enough, so.
Sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying? So you had to do all this stuff, and then
you fly back to wherever you live, and then you get a call and you're like, all right, this is when you're going to be requested to be at this hotel, and we're going to get things going. So all of us go into our hotels. You can't leave the hotel room. They come and get you when they do like your pictures with a quick description of your bio, which mine was wonderful. I forgot what it said, but it's pretty embarrassing. I'll find the picture and we can discuss later. And they just do kind of interviews of like, why are you in the search for love? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm kind of like speeding the process up because it would take 5 hours to explain everything.
Yeah.
So then the day comes that we actually are, it's the season premiere. It's the limo.
Night one.
Well, I had picked out this beautiful black dress. I was so excited to wear it. And that day, that morning before, one of the producers comes on and he's like, I think we're going to change your outfit. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, do you have cowboy boots, right? And I'm like, yeah. You got jean shorts? I'm like, yeah. They're like, do you have a plaid shirt? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're going to go out of the limo wearing that. So I'm like, oh my God. Like, all these girls are dressed to the nines in these beautiful gowns. And here I am looking like a hot mess with cowboy boots, plaid shirt, jumped out of the limo. So when you see these like acts, I'm just gonna call them acts, but like these women coming out of the limos dressed in like blow up outfits or karaoke machines or in a party bus rather than a limo or on the back of a horse, you name it. Something that's normal, not the usual limo entrance. That's producer driven, like what?
I always wondered, how did they coordinate this horse getting to this location,
Right? That's the producer. So,
but then you did, because I was looking this up to refresh my memory. You did a second entrance and you changed and you came back.
Yep, they took me to a production room inside the Bachelor mansion and had me change, fixed up my hair, and snuck me back into a limo for me to do a second limo entrance. So, it's like, I would have never thought about that. I was a nervous wreck. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
So Yeah. So after I did my second limo entrance, you know, all these girls start rolling in, and you're just nervous trying to meet all these girls and remember names, and the drinks are flowing. So I think if I remember correctly, is like the limos start coming around 7 p.m. And from that moment, you walk in and all you want is a cocktail because you have these nerves just going nuts. And yeah, the producers are right there. Have a
So
cocktail, have a drink.
no cocktails are consumed before the entrance, the grand entrance.
Yes, they did provide some because we actually had limos go up halfway up the driveway, and then you kind of get out and you do a final hair and makeup touch up right off the side of like this property, and they will have like, okay, take a shot, like here, like you do you need refreshment, you water, like you're about to go. This is your time. So yeah, you have the opportunity to have a little cocktail, and then once you get in, you start drinking. They do have food, like the whole kitchen is laid out with like amazing food, but you're nervous. And for me, when I'm nervous, I can't eat. And so I'm just throwing these down. So the limos start coming and they just don't stop. And really, you're just trying to meet these women and try and get some time with crystals. And you do have the opportunity to go up and talk to them on your own, but it's normally like producer pushed, you know, they're like, okay, oh, did you see he took Nikki over here? Like, why don't you go talk to him now?
Yeah,
I'm like,
they're like encouraging.
like they encourage the drama. That's their job,
Yeah.
to encourage this excitement.
It's funny that you say that you were so nervous because I wouldn't think that about you. Like I feel like you would be really confident and like not nervous because you're such a girl's girl. And I feel like I don't know. It's funny that you say that. I guess we never really know like what people are feeling inside, but I guess it is nerve-wracking because you know you're being filmed, you know, like all eyes are on you when you're like getting out of the limo and like going in and like there's always cameras around. So you're like,
Yeah, like
you'll need a couple drinks. Like I don't blame you.
yeah. And for me, I sometimes, most of the time, I don't have a filter. I just say how I feel and what's on my mind. And that's fine in a normal, you know, day. But when you have a microphone and it's on national television, like once it's out of your mouth, it's out there forever. So I'm just like, oh, Tara, like keep your mouth shut. Like, please don't do anything embarrassing. And of course, what do?
Get wasted, blacked out.
I mean, the night goes on and I just keep drinking and the filter's gone. And I just start blabbing. So there are other girls there that, you know, are very drunk like me, if, you know, right up to that same level. But the first rose ceremony, like you can see it, it's daylight. These
Yeah.
things last all through the night. It's not till 7, 8 in the morning when you're actually doing this rose ceremony. So all these girls are exhausted, and you'll see them just, you won't see them on TV. They don't show you, but some girls are just on the couch, like in and out of sleep. But for me, I was like a kid on Christmas morning on crack hanging from the ceiling, like being an absolute nutcase. So yeah, I was delusional and said some great things. I think my one thing I said was like my three best friends are Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, and John Jameson. As I reach out the picture and take a swig of my whiskey, and I look at the camera and I said, I'm a fucking train wreck. I'm
My
not. I'm not a train wreck.
my favorite part is where you go, where the fuck is you been? To like
Yeah.
one of the girls. And I was like, remember I messaged you? I was like, did you say that to Chris or did you say
Oh, I was definitely one of the girls. I couldn't tell you who at the time.
funny?
And you know, I'm sitting there belch on national television, and one of the girls is like, "Oh, you smell like whiskey," and it's like, "Well, yeah, I've been drinking Jack on the rocks." It's like, oh my god, it was.
Tara, how old were you when you went on the show?
I think I was about 25, 26.
Okay, so like this honestly could have happened to the best of us. Like let's not pretend that we all haven't had these like crazy nights where we drink too much, like especially when you're nervous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Or like for a big event, like when it's like your birthday or like a holiday and you're like going out and going crazy, like I'm sure any person would like over drink in a situation like this because of the nerves, and you just want to like loosen up a little bit.
Yeah, and it's in that situation, I feel like I didn't have a governor of like knowing when to stop. And then you have these producers are like, hey, take a shot with me, take a shot with me, like let's go.
Mhm.
And you want to like impress the producers. So it's yeah, I just fell in under their spell and had myself a time. So we go through the rose ceremony. I barely remember the rose ceremony. I just remember being really cold, really hard to stand still. And it was a long process because Chris would call 3 or 4 girls and then stop, pause, go back into, the back room, look at pictures and say, okay, this one, this one, because he's not going to remember 26 girls' names.
Right. That
On the
makes sense.
first
I've always wondered that how there must be like a microphone in their ear or something, because how the hell would they remember everyone?
Yeah, so you think, they do use that as him like going back in the back room, like as being a dramatic thing, like he has to think about things. No, he just
He
maybe
forgot.
sometimes, yeah, he has to go look at the names of who, which girls he wants to give roses to. And I do get a rose. And what a lot of people don't realize is after the rose ceremony, we don't stay in the house. So say it's Friday night that we do the rose ceremony up to Saturday morning. People think that we do stay at that house. We go straight back to the hotel and we sleep for the whole Saturday, like decompress, me, work on curing my hangover. And then we enter the house like 6 a.m. on Sunday. And that's when we start filming as the day after the rose ceremony. So there is a whole 24 hours that we're back at the hotel after that first rose ceremony. But I had to like wake up in a hotel that next morning.
Oh my gosh.
And I had ordered room service, which was sitting in front of my hotel room door. I don't remember ordering French toast, gluten-free French toast. Still ate it. But I had to call one of the producers and be like, yo, did I get a rose or am I going home? Because I don't remember. I had no recollection.
Okay, so when you woke up the next morning, were you like having, because like when when you go out and you drink too much and then you're like overthinking your entire, like what we were talking about before we started recording, like
Yeah.
just that, and that's the Sunday scaries. Like, did you have that times 500 knowing that you had cameras on you all night?
Oh, I was hoping the bed would swallow me whole and that like I would disappear forever. I was just like, what did I do? What in the world? And I can't, so they take your phones away. You can't like talk to anyone through it. Like, what did I do? Like,
Oh,
like something happens, you call your friend, you're like, okay, I did this. Make me feel better about myself. You couldn't even do that. So I'm just sitting there in the room all day going, what did I?
could you see anyone? Like, could you see the other girls and be like, stop? That sounds like my worst nightmare.
We couldn't. Oh, it was don't remember too much of that day because, you kind of push back those bad memories and that was it. I mean,
So you lived it, and then so then you have to kind of like relive it again because you have to rewatch it on national television, which honestly, in some good way at that time, I feel like social media was not as big of a deal at that time that you recorded that. So that's almost like to your benefit. But like you had to relive that. And I'm sure you got like so many texts that people were watching, and like, so did
yeah.
you feel like second anxiety again when it was aired? Did you watch it again?
Oh, trust me. I had to, like, a week before the premiere, I had to inform my employers. I was like, all right, I just have to let you know, like, I got blackout waste on national television. Please don't fire me. And, they just laughed it off and thank God. And you're like, good for you, Tara. Good for you. It's like, what do they say? Like, bad publicity is still good publicity. And so
Yeah.
my company was like, yeah, like people are going to, dig in deeper and like who you are and see who you work for. And like, that's awesome. So I was like, all right, cool. But yeah, no, the season premiere was it was really hard to watch. I actually haven't watched it, the full season premiere, since it came out, until last month. I came home and my neighbors and she had bought the episode and we sat and watched it, and it was cringe
You
worthy.
still felt like that 8 years later.
Oh my god, yeah. Just even hearing the sound of my voice, like
Yeah.
on national, I don't know why. It just like, just seeing myself in that state, it is hard. But going back and watching it when it first aired, I can't tell you how many people text me going like, "Oh my god, were you acting? Like, were you like acting drunk?"
You should have just rolled with it. Yeah, no, they made me act like that.
Yeah, and I had to just say flat out, no, I was shit canned. That was no acting. That was me, and I I feel a little lucky because I didn't get too much pushback from it. Like, people were kind of more like, "Oh, she's real, she's raw, like, she's not sugarcoating anything." But I wasn't. I was just being who I was.
So when
But
you went on the show, like how times have changed too, like going back to the whole social media thing. Obviously, people now go on the show because they want to be influencers on social media. Like I feel like, let's just be real, like 85%, 90% of these. So when you went on the show, were you full blown? Because I feel like when I watched it back at that time, I truly believe that everyone was going on to like find love. You know what I mean? Like, did you feel like, okay, like this might be my person? Or were you like, cool, maybe I'll like this guy, but also like maybe I'll get some opportunities from this?
no to both. No to both. I mean, it, I'm just being honest. Like, no, I wasn't going to find love. You're getting to go on national television, live in a house with 25 other girls in, Agora Hills, California, and go on possibly, trips around the world.
That's fair.
I was going to say none of that. And yeah, everyone's like, kept asking me, like, okay, now that we're in The Bachelor, like, what's your next step? Like, what are you going to do? And I never had any intention to be like going off and to do, Instagram, whatever. I was like, I'm going back to my job that I had working at Tenant Healthcare, kind of business director for surgery centers, outpatient surgery centers. Nothing exciting. And I don't, yeah, all these girls left their careers to go in search of stardom, and like, this is my first step into big things, and it has done for a lot of past contestants, and it's amazing for them. But that wasn't what I wanted. My employers put my job on hold for me until I came back, which I'm so thankful for. No, so everyone was like, "What are you gonna do now?" I'm going back to my life. Like,
Yeah.
this is great. Shh. Yeah, no. I went back. So everyone was kind of shocked, but no, I wasn't really searching for that lifestyle.
I can completely see why people would go on the show now because it's almost like you have a shoe-in to make tons of money being an influencer on social media. Yes, you get the trips. Maybe you could be the next lead of the show or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I feel like because social media has gotten so big, as a viewer, now it's so hard to watch. I don't know if you find that, but like it's just so cringe to me now because it's so predictable. And I'm like, they just need to like cut, it just needs to be done.
I stopped watching. I honestly don't watch. I tried to watch the season premiere of this season. I can't even, it's his name is Zach.
Yeah,
I didn't
I'm not watching it. It's just like, I can't. It's too,
like, yeah, so it's so choreographed now, that I can't. I tried, but it's definitely different from before. And they're trying to keep up with new things and
yeah.
trying new tactics, and it's just too much for me. So I
Are
guess
you,
I'm not the only one feeling that way.
are you happy that you went on, or do you wish that was like something that you didn't do?
No, I'm definitely happy I did. It was a great experience. I met a lot of amazing girls that I still talk to today. It's fun to look back on.
Yeah.
Not really looking forward to when Teddy is of age and figured out what his mom did. Or
Wait, do I have your permission to share the clip on social media when this
oh,
episode comes out?
of course, yeah, you have to. Yes, you have my full permission.
Okay, good. Because it gives everyone a visual of exactly,
Yeah,
you know.
it's authentic.
Yes. Okay, so fast forward, you then meet your husband. How did you guys meet?
Bumble. Good.
Bumble. So you
Bumble.
messaged him first.
I did. Yes. I mean, it's so long ago. I have to dust off my memory. Yeah, we just matched on Bumble. He was down playing for the Florida Panthers. And I'm from Seattle, outside of Seattle, a small town called North Bend, Washington. I went to school at University of Miami, and I just never left South Florida because why would I go back to rainy Washington? So I just worked and lived in South Florida, and we matched. And we started dating a couple months after we met, and moved in at 6 months, and he proposed at 10 months.
Oh my God, that is fast. But
Well,
yet we're on The Bachelor, which could have been a much shorter
yeah,
timeline.
exactly. So this is actually very long. This is a long to be
Okay,
engaged.
so you guys met, and what year was this?
I think this is 2016, and he was with the Florida Panthers, but then he got traded up to the Rangers in November, and New York Rangers, and I was like, have fun. I'll try and see you on the weekends, but I have my career here.
Yeah.
I have our place. I'm set. Like, I'll see you when I see you. And then he came home for the few days for Christmas break and proposed. I'm like, yeah, obviously I said yes. And I was like, why did you why? And he didn't want to say it, but he thought I was a flight risk. He thought I was just going to leave him because he wasn't in Florida anymore. And I was just going to find someone better and keep my life going in
He
Florida.
wanted to lock you down.
Yeah, pretty much.
So he was traded, and then you did some AHL time too, back to NHL, all over the place. And then
Yeah.
somewhere within that timeline, you had your son.
And that's where got pregnant, had our son in Boston. And then COVID hit. Teddy was a pre-COVID baby, so born in 2019. When COVID hit, he was about 7 or 8 months.
Okay. I don't know why I always feel like he's older because he's like a big.
He's like 60 pounds and 5 feet tall. 3-year-old.
He's not 60 pounds. Is he really?
No. He's 55. He's absolutely massive. They had the bubble going on in the playoffs, and Steven opted out and didn't play. My Teddy and I both have a heart defect called a bicuspid aortic valve. Very common. It's one of the most common heart defects, but with the effects of COVID, we didn't know what was going to happen since it was just Teddy and I at home. If I were to get COVID or Teddy was going to be, to get COVID, what would that look like for us? And, if Steven's somewhere in a bubble and he can't get to us, like, he would never forgive himself. So he opted out. Yeah. And then we did another season with the Bruins, and COVID was still strong. And Florida, being Florida, was open. We had things to do, and Boston was very much closed because of COVID. So we decided to have Steven live up there by himself for the hockey season. And Teddy and I stayed in Florida, and we would visit once a month. So that was really hard. That was a true testament of relationships and dealing with long distance. But after that, Steven, I call him a bench warmer. He was a 7th D, 8th defenseman, didn't get to see too many games, and he was just like, I want to call it quits in the NHL because he wants to play. And he's like, why not? Let's just do Russia. Or he was thinking Germany. He was thinking Germany, Switzerland, blah, blah. He's like, let's play 2 more years, do a money grab, right off into the sunset. I'm like, well, okay. What league pays the most? He's like, yeah, KHL. And I'm like, okay, why not entertain that idea? And so we talked to his agent, and we signed over there in Kazan. And I think that was one of the best decisions we've ever made at that point in our lives.
Really? I was not expecting you to say that, actually.
No one does. Everyone's like, oh my God, how's Russia? And I have nothing but amazing things to say. it was a dream getting to be on that other side of the world, especially in Russia now, pre-war. Even pre-war, Americans weren't really, you can't get a visa to go. It's pretty closed off there, but to be able to go there when no one else really could was pretty amazing. The architecture, the food, the people are so nice. What do you want to know? It was just a dream.
Well, okay, so what was it like during COVID though? Were things closed down or were people just going about life like normal?
Well, we had a little spike over there. Well, the whole world did. It was pretty similar to the United States, but they have their own vaccines. They don't recognize Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson Johnson. They have what's called a Sputnik vaccine. So they have their own vaccine. No one knows what's in it.
Yeah, that
So
sounds sketchy.
you actually had to have your own to really, when we had the spike, they asked to show proof of vaccination to get places to the mall or whatnot. You can go to the grocery store, but that's it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm vaccinated. Here's my vaccine card. And they're like, absolutely not. We don't recognize that. You have to get the Sputnik. I'm I'm not getting a shot of something. Like it could be tiger blood they're injecting into me, for God's sakes. I have no idea. No one could say. And so we were pretty much back in a lockdown over there. Besides that, they did lift the restrictions, and it was I feel like it was a little bit better than what the States was experiencing
I'm trying to think. Was this was
last season.
this was last season. Everything started happening with like the war. And then I remember there was a period of time where you were like really freaked out.
Yeah, so where we were located in Russia is Kazan, and we knew that they were most of January. Their team was on the other side of Russia, the Asian side, playing the games over there. So they were going to be gone for at least 3 weeks, and then they had the Olympic break. So I was like 3-4 weeks of not being with Steven, being in Russia. I was like, Teddy and I are just going to fly home, because after Olympic break, they have 3 home games and then it's playoffs and then they come home. So it's like, all right, Teddy and I are just going to pack our things and head back to Florida. So we did that January 1st. And then no war started. Steven gets selected to go play on the Olympic team for USA and had a killer time there. It was great. And then I think it was 2 or 3 days after they came back from the Olympics, the war started. And that's when you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah,
What
like that's scary. Like that's, I don't know if this sounds really naive, but it just sounds like almost like behind our times. Like it's hard to even think of like a war, because we grew up in the US where it's like you feel perfectly safe, but then you put yourself in a situation like this and it's like, holy shit, like this is serious. Like this is real. This is scary.
Yeah, the US Embassy was alerting all US citizens in Russia to evacuate immediately. So we have our representatives telling Steven, get out now, get out now. But we have the team, the owner saying, you're fine, just relax. We'll take care of you. And so we had very different things being told to us. But there was a couple times we had a couple other imports on our team, and they're Canadian. They, Steven and the imports would go out to dinner and try to go to a restaurant and be like, hey, can we get a table for 4? And the hostess would hear that they're speaking English and be like, no, we won't serve you. Just for them being English speakers, think that everyone's from the United States. And there was a couple times where they'd be out eating, and a Russian would come and be like, where are you guys from? And Steven would just say, I'm from Ontario. I'm from Ontario, Canada, saying he's Canadian, because God forbid you show that you are American.
Weren't they some Americans getting like captured?
Well, Brittney Griner. So we had that whole situation. It's like they could easily find, he does a lot of CBD supplements, so no THC in them, but it's a big part of his daily routines, his self-care, help with injuries. And he's like, they could easily take that and say, oh, there's THC in this and I'm locked up. What am I going to do?
Sorry, that situation, as a person who occasionally likes to dabble with some THC.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not a big deal.
but over there, it's huge
And the
deal.
fact that she got thrown in a Russian prison, and who, God knows what has happened to her. I'm sure some shit has happened to her in that
Oh, yeah.
prison because she's like a public figure. And I feel like when you, like in the US, if you were a public figure, it was like you'd almost be like put in your own little space so no one would hurt you. But I feel like in Russia, it would be the complete opposite. Like, oh, you're a public figure, like you're going to be thrown to the wolves and like everyone has access to you.
Only time will tell. I want to
Like I
hear.
don't actually know that for sure, but like I can only imagine because I mean, I'm glad you had a good experience in Russia, and I know other people have as well, hockey wise, but that's a different story. But when we're comparing hockey to like a Russian prison, like there's a huge, obviously a huge difference. But like, could you even
Yeah.
imagine being in a Russian prison?
Well, that's why I was freaking out because at any moment, if he's trying to get back in the border, because they do travel a lot, in and out of the Russian border, I'm like, he could definitely be captured. But I have to say, Brittney Griner, that wasn't her first season over playing in Russia. She's been over there. Don't quote me on this, 1 or 2 or more years. You know the laws.
Yeah.
THC, weed is absolutely forbidden in Russia. So you knew the law and you're sitting here traveling with hashish, whatever that is. What do you think's gonna happen?
Yeah. I
Nothing.
mean, it is stupid. It is stupid to do that. Like, why risk it?
Yeah. You're being employed by Russia. You follow their rules.
That's true.
Just don't be an idiot. And she was an idiot. That's that. So that was like a big fear of mine. Was after the whole Brittney Griner thing happened and then the war started. It's just like they're looking for some.
Yeah. Like there's no grace period. It's like they don't care if you didn't know, like
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. So we went, Teddy and I were in Florida while this is all happening, and Steven stuck over there during the war, and he stuck it out till after playoffs. Our team lost in the first round. Thank God. And
Thank you,
they,
God.
thank God. And then all the imports, they all got on a plane from Kazan to Istanbul, and they were able to get out. And you best believe there were tears and alcohol being experienced on that flight. Just taking off out of Russia for them, it was very exciting because it was dicey. We didn't know if they were going to let the Americans out.
That's super scary. And I'm sure like people were bombarding you, like asking, is Stephen fun? Like, it's like people care and they want to ask about stuff, but sometimes that can be overwhelming because they don't realize like there's probably like 10 to 20 other people like asking you the same questions, which can sometimes like stem up anxiety for yourself too, because you obviously don't know like the situation and like you don't know what's happening and you're stressed and worried. So it just like brings up
Yeah.
all those emotions.
Yeah, it's a lot, and hearing stories from our girl Maggie when she was trying to leave, it took her a couple times. She would go and try and check into the airport, and they're like, we're not letting you fly. Yeah, you'll have to ask her about it.
Okay, well, I was supposed to talk with her last week, but I had to reschedule. So, but we are going to talk about this whole thing too.
She went through some shit with that trying to leave. But before any of this happened, the Brittney Griner or the war, Russia was an absolute dream. Absolute dream. The team took such amazing care of us. We had a driver who took us everywhere. They gave us a car, as all teams do, but we had a driver to take us. He was a translator for us. So I never really got to learn too much Russian because I didn't have to. You just, huh?
Tough language.
Yeah, they have like letters and numbers as the alphabet's 33 symbols long. Like they're just making up shit now. God, I tried and I said absolutely not.
No.
My brain hurt.
Yeah.
But no, it was amazing. I'm glad we did it. We actually signed a contract for 2 more years. We were supposed to be over in Russia now, but with the war starting.
Yeah. So when we were in Nashville, I remember, I don't know if I can say this, but you guys were thinking about signing back in the US, but you didn't know for sure. It was kind of like on the DL.
Yeah.
And then you wound up signing Why am I blanking on
Detroit.
Detroit?
Organization. Yeah.
You re-signed in Detroit. So that was kind of like, obviously with everything going on, you just didn't feel really safe going back to Russia.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a decision that we both decided would be best for our family. It was kind of hard to picture us back over here because when Steven was ending his career with the Bruins, like that was emotional, as for any hockey player, playing in the NHL, thinking like this will be my last NHL game I'll ever play.
Yeah.
And going through that emotion, that was hard for me seeing him, he's been in there his whole career and he's like leaving it. And but he still felt like he could play more. So having to say goodbye to, AHL, NHL, going over to Russia, coming back and re-signing, I kind of was like, dude, we just went through all those emotions. Now we have to do that all over again whenever you decide to retire again.
Just kidding.
God. So yeah, we signed our contract, and don't quote me on this, but if we were to not go play because we already signed it, we would have to pay them a third of our contract. Pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars because we don't want to play. And we were like, dude, there's a war going on. We can't go. And they're like, yeah, you can and you will. But they have what's called an NHL out clause. Any player, I think this goes for, other leagues in Europe as well. If you've signed a contract in the KHL, you can, the one way to get out of it is if you sign an NHL contract. So that's what Steven did. A two-way, which still counts as an NHL contract. So we were able to get out of that contract by just signing back in the United States.
Oh, thank God.
Now we're back. We're back.
You're back and better than ever.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
So this year, it's been like a lot of ups and downs, right? Like in the NHL, back to the AHL, because I've been seeing like you've been all over the place.
Yeah. He's called, sent down, we're, mainly been with the Grand Rapids Griffins, the AHL. So this is my first experience having a main season in the AHL. And it is wild because you have guys getting sent down from the Red Wings. You have guys being sent up from the ECHL team in Toledo, the Walleyes, I think that's what they're called. The movement, like I had no idea, because when you're in the NHL, you have that group. But in the AHL, you have different teams coming in and out. I travel a lot to Florida. I'll go down for a couple of weeks and I come back up and it's a whole different team. I'm like, who is this guy? Who are you? What is going on? You just don't know where people are going. It's definitely a change of pace, but it's fun.
Yeah, like less pressure probably.
Yeah, it is. I think so.
And you've been doing like a lot of traveling too. Like you're always doing something. Like I'm like, how does she do this and not get tired?
This season I have traveled a lot. I think because when I was over in Russia, I couldn't do a lot.
Yeah.
Flying home. And now that I'm back in the States, it's like, oh, there's a wedding on March 11th. Oh, let me fly to that. I can do it. I'm kind of like that rebound effect of like not being able to do anything last season to now here. I'm going to do everything.
Yeah. That's good though. That's kind of fun in a way because you're like, you can actually do a lot of the stuff that you weren't able to do before. That's like, I think any person that lives overseas that has like FOMO about everything, it's like when you go home for the summer, it's like you almost pack like too much stuff in because you're like, I can,
Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of doing that right now during the season because I couldn't do it last season. And I am just fortunate with Teddy being such a great traveler and it's easy. He's easy. And it kind of breaks up the snowy, rainy season.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would love to be in Florida right now. That sounds great.
Yeah, but the season will be ending soon. There's people who don't want the season to end and people who do. I'm definitely one of those people who do.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
I'm not ashamed of it.
When's the season over there?
So if we went to like game 7, like final round, it would be April 16th. But
that's good.
Yeah, we start way earlier.
Yeah, right? You're starting like
No, but like our season in Europe starts like August 1st. We're in
Yeah.
the US, it starts in October. So that's why it's over so much earlier. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, especially just like having a baby like a couple months ago, it's like I want a jet, like some people are like, oh, are you gonna like travel after the season? I'm like, no, like my travel is like going home. And I'm terrified for the flight because it's just gonna be probably a shit show. Um, but once we get there, it'll be good. I asked my parents because like I don't know when exactly we'll go home, but I'm like, can you guys, because they don't live in Idaho, they live in California.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I might need you guys to like go up to our house because it's right now it's an Airbnb, so it's like fully furnished. So like if they go in, it's like the beds are made, like they don't have to do anything. But I'm like thinking of like coming back by ourselves and having to grind for like a week to get two kids over jet lag with no food, nothing in the house. I'm like, it would just be really nice if we could come home and like the fridge would be stocked and like we have food. Cause like, as you know, it completely changes the game once you have kids and you're doing those kinds of travel because it's like, okay, not only am I coming home and I'm freaking debilitated, tired, now I have to go to the groceries like with a jet lagged, cranky toddler and baby, and you're tired as hell. It's just like,
It's a nightmare. And I'm one of those people, like when I come home, I need my bed sheets like washed and flawless. I
yeah,
need towels cleaned like the night before I get home.
yeah.
And it's just it's a difference to have your house lived in before you go back into it. What we changed this season is I actually have one of my best friends living in my house. And,
Oh,
and she's a Delta flight attendant, kids, single, just an absolute rock star of a human. And girl, it makes the difference to
yeah.
have, I'm like, all right, can you grab this from the grocery store? Can you do this? But having someone living in your house and you come home and it just smells lived in, like
Mm-hmm.
the sheets are clean, your fridge is full. Like if you can get your parents to your house a couple days before you get home, do it because it makes the difference.
I know my dad's like, let me know when you know. I'm like, Dad, I don't know. It's going to be like a week before and you're going to have to book a flight. Sorry, but it's going to be last minute.
Have your bags packed and ready.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know. It's like so many little things. Like our cars are in two different locations. We have to somehow get to our car. It's like my parents just have like, it's just, yeah, we have renters in there till April 1st. And then they leave. But I will say the nice part about having it as an Airbnb is like in the past, before we didn't do that, nothing was set up. So we were coming home and like no sheets on mattresses, no towels. So we're like getting off the flight and like digging through our storage unit at like, late in the night. I'm like, I do not want to be doing this right now. So that's the nice part is that we can come home and just like go right to bed.
Do it.
But
Do it. You always get nervous about those flights coming back home, but you do great. You do it with such beauty and grace.
you know what? You don't see, you're not on the flight with me, Tara. You don't know.
Well, what you portray is you do show us that yes, it's hard.
I can't wait till my kids are like Teddy's age because I feel like then they can kind of entertain themselves a little bit more. But unfortunately, I've been blessed with a child that does not like to sleep on the plane. So that makes it like 500 times more like I can just feel my shoulders just, going up to like my ears. It's just like the worst.
It's the
Yeah.
beauty of the lifestyle we live.
I like to ask people this sometimes, but if you could give anyone advice in the hockey world, whether they're brand new or they've been in the lifestyle for 10 years, what would you say?
Oh God, I wish I would have known this question was coming and I would have thought about it.
How to keep you on your toes.
Take a lot of deep breaths and take each day, as a new day because you never know where you're going to be tomorrow. So when shit hits the fan, you get a trade, you get sent down, you get sent up. Take a deep breath and just do it. Everything will be fine. If you're in the thick of it and you think you're just drowning in so much to do, if there's a huge change where your husband goes or boyfriend goes, just know a week from now, you'll be looking back and be like, I went through that. You just have to know that maybe you don't feel so strong, at a certain point, but us hockey wives or girlfriends, we have so much strength that we don't know we have to be able to pick up our lives and just go. So just know that if you don't feel that strong, you're strong.
I think that's great advice. And I think it's so true if you look back on like certain hard points in your life. Like for me, something that stands out is like long distance. I feel like I got so like worked up about stuff. I'm like, I wish I just like enjoyed that time more. You know what I mean? Like I wish I just like was like focused more on my friends at that time instead of being so worked up and trying to control this, because it was like so new. And so looking back now, it's like such like a, what do they say, like a wrinkle in time? Is that the right
Yeah.
use of word? It's
A
like
wrinkle in time, maybe. Wrinkle. I mean, yeah, for me, it could be a wrinkle in time because we get a new wrinkle each hockey season.
Is it a no? I think it's a wrinkle.
Is
I'm
it?
looking it
Maybe a
up.
wrinkle? I have no idea. Girl, like I said, I'm dealing with this little sinus infection, so I feel like I can't be next to like sharp corners because if I tap my head on a corner, my head's gonna explode.
Hey, wait, A Wrinkle in Time is a movie.
So type in a ripple of time. Am I just high on Sudafed?
Oh no, I'm right.
You are? All
I'm
right.
right. Uses the image of a wrinkle to explain the idea, some word I don't know, making a connection between two faraway things in a way that bypasses the distance between them.
Wow. Yep, you did it.
Well, thank you for coming on, my friend. It was nice to chat with you. And if someone wants to follow along with your journey and see what you're up to, where can they check you out on Instagram?
Yeah, mainly Instagram, just tara.l.kampfer and just see all the crazy things I do. Just flying and fishing and golfing, living out hockey,
Everything.
lots of hockey games.